Hello students, very good morning to all of you. Today in this lecture with a continuation of module 1, that is Introduction to Cost Accounting, we are going to discuss with another new topic, that is cost classification. In our previous lecture we have learned about the basic concept, definition of cost accounting, objectives, need and importance of cost accounting, and one more important topic that we have learned in that lecture, that is the distinguish between financial accounting and cost accounting. Here we are going to discuss with another important topic in this lecture, that is cost classification or type of the cost is. So here are the first basic introduction. Now the cost classification is a logical process of categorize different costs involved in a business process according to their type, nature, frequency and other features to fulfilling accounting objectives and facilitate economic analysis. As we have already discussed the basic concept behind our subject cost accounting, that the cost involved in production of a product or rendering service. Practically, we know that the different type of the factors involved in production of a product that we have discussed in that concept, in that basic concept introduction topic of the cost, that material, labor and other overheads are the basic elements that's involved in the cost. So there is a need to be the proper allocation of all the costs, all the expenses that involve in the production of product on their nature, frequency, their importance and types. So on that basis that we control the cost and we analyze the accurate cost of a product that involve in production of a product. Now, because of this cost classification, the businessman can achieve the accounting objective as well as facilitate economic analysis. Means through this cost classification, proper allocation of the costs or the expenses among the production of a product, so businessman can achieve the desired profit as well as also that the customer satisfaction is also completed. Means the businessman provide the qualitative, quantitative with the fair price goods to the customer and also the services. So further the cost as refers to the value sacrifice with the aim of gaining something in return. So every business process involves some cost, definitely, as we are discussing the topic that is related with the commercial, where the expenses are took place to ultimate achieve the profit and give service to the customer. So every business process involves some costs and it is based of the profit determination for an organization. So knowing about the different expenses facilitate the procedure of cost accounting in an organization. So as the basic idea अगर हम लोगों को मिल जाता है, then it is easy for the procedure that applicable in the organization regarding that cost accounting system. Now the further, a particular cost can be allocated under multiple categories. Clear? So as we have discussed, there are so many costs involved in production of product, so that cost is not only the one use, it can be allocated in multiple way. So here are the example. For example, salary paid to an employee is a labor cost as well as fixed cost. Means the salary which is paid to an that the labor in form of the wages, so it is called as the labor cost, and salary pay to that the supervisor or phone attender or the receptionist, तो it is called a fixed cost. उसको क्या किया जाएगा, सैलरी फिक्स्ड दिया जाएगा. किसी को हम लोग जो लेबर को देते हैं दैट इज टाइम बेसिस पे देते हैं, या हम लोग प्रोडक्शन बेसिस पर यूनिट के बेसिस पे उनको वेजेस पे करते हैं. सो द सैलरी is one type of the expenses but it's used in the multiple way में हम लोग इनको पे कर सकते हैं. Moreover, the different elements of the cost classifications are linked to each other in one or the other way. As we have discussed that there are the two important allocation of the cost, direct cost and indirect cost. Both costs are linked with each other. So the both costs are the important for production of a product. So let us begin to discuss the basic classification of costs. So let us discuss the different types of costs and that basis of classification of costs. So first, that the nature of expenses that include material, labor, other overhead costs. Now the material is the cost of raw material and its related what that cost such as procurement cost, taxes, insurance, freight inward, that whatever we are paying for acquiring of the material is called the material cost. Now the labor cost. Labor cost is what that salary and wages paid to the employee, whether it is a permanent, temporary or contractual may employee होने तो working in an organization. Now such salaries also included that PF contribution, bonus, commission, incentives, allowances, overtime or all other perquisites given to the employee or the labor. Now the all overheads, that other overheads that excluding material and labor comes under this head, that is called the factory expenses, selling and distribution expenses and administrative expenses all come that under the heading of overhead cost. Now the next one is the relation to the cost center that include direct and indirect cost. So it is the direct cost is what significant cost immediately associated with the production of process. Clear? So it can be seen as that prime cost and it included as direct material, direct labor and other overheads. So the total of these direct costs is also known as the prime cost. Now the indirect cost is a cost which cannot be directly allocated to a particular process of a production. It is what as in secondary cost and is majority seen in that similar as indirect material, indirect labor or indirect expenses. Now next is that function. That function is based on production, administrative, selling and distribution, research and development. So the production cost comparison of all the direct and indirect costs incurred in the production of goods and services. Now whereas the administrative cost includes the costs of that management activity in the organization that is related with what, that is the electricity, stationery, telephone expenses, rent expenses are all included in the administrative cost. Selling and distribution cost. Selling cost involve that the advertisement, promotion of the goods, then servicing given to the customers are included in selling. Then distribution, that door-to-door service, then transportation charges, warehouse charges are all included in distribution charges. One more factor that involved in the indirectly for the production of a product, that is research and development. Now the research and development taken place for further more improvement in the product or for launching the new product. So whatever expenses incurred for the research team or the research project or implementation of the research project is come under the heading of the research and development cost. Now the next is basis of classification on the behavior. So behavior means that the pattern, that characteristics. Now as we have basically known about the these three factors, that is fixed, variable and semi variable cost. The fixed cost, which is that very that the change very not frequently change, it is hardly change with the change in the business activity, क्योंकि ये क्या cost होती है जो fixed होती है. As we have discussed the example of the rent, that rent paid for the factory which is fixed, whether आप लोग factories में production start करो या नहीं करो, we have to pay the rent. Supervisor को salary देना for supervising the labor, so under में आप 10 laborers का supervision हो या 15 laborers का, but we have to pay the fixed salary to the supervisor. Now the variable cost is change with the increase of one unit of the production, that is called the variable cost. Include that the labor cost, raw material cost. Now for example कि 1000 unit हम लोगों ने production किया, accordingly हम लोगों ने material cost को decide किया और labor कितना लगेगा उतना decide किया. Once हम लोगों ने decide किया 10 unit extra हम लोगों को production करना है, so for that extra material cost or labor cost that should be the applicable on the production of the 10 units, so that is called the variable, which is change in the unit of the production. Semi variable cost, it is included that fixed and variable. As I given you the example of power, electricity, कि कुछ यूनिट तक इनका कॉस्ट फिक्स रहता है, फर्दर यूनिट इंक्रीज हो गया, फॉर एग्जांपल 100 यूनिट तक आपका 500 फिक्स रहेगा, 100 यूनिट के बाद 1 यूनिट पे इंक्रीज हुआ, यू आर बियरिंग द एक्स्ट्रा कॉस्ट. दिस इज कॉल्ड द सेमी वेरिएबल कॉस्ट. दे आर मॉडरेटली चेंज विद द चेंज इन द बिजनेस एक्टिविटीज. Now next is the time basis. Now on the basis of time, the first is the historical cost, the cost which is already incurred, जो already cost हो चुका, खर्चा हो चुका, that is called the historical cost. So that only used for the base of taking the decision in the current or the future decisions के लिए हमें वो base के लिए काम आता है. Now the predetermined cost, this predetermined cost is involve both standard cost as well as the estimated cost. Standard cost is fixed for a particular cost that before any actual performance of the production, कोई production होने से पहले हम लोग standard cost को fix कर लेते हैं, estimate cost कर लेते हैं कितना खर्चा आएगा. Then we are start with that the actual production and comparison with that standard and estimated cost. If अगर रिजल्ट एक्यूरेट आता है देन इट्स ओके, अगर रिजल्ट एक्यूरेट नहीं आता है देन करेक्टिव एक्शंस आर टेकन. Now next one is that production process cost, means that basis of classification on the production process. Now here is the process cost, contract cost. As I already told you, these are the topics which we are going to discuss in the detail in our 6th semester. The process cost involve that the different processes of that production of a product, कि एक product को produce करने के लिए जो different processes में से pass होना पता है. I always used to take the example of that the process of the cloth, that cotton में से thread, then cloth बनता है white, then it is coming to the under the dye section जहाँ पे printing and coloring होता है. क्लियर? सो हर एक प्रोसेस का क्या होता है, डिफरेंट डिफरेंट अकाउंटिंग होता है. Contract cost involved that it is related with what, that construction line, that is a tender or that taking the service जहाँ पे means that contractee taking the service from the contractor. Clear? It's related with the job costing. Job costing means जहाँ पे आप किसी का सर्विस लेते हो, फॉर एग्जाम्पल कि हम लोग किसी को इंटीरियर करने के लिए, अपने फ्लैट का इंटीरियर करने के लिए हम लोग कॉन्ट्रैक्ट देते हैं. सो वी आर टेकिंग द सर्विसेज फ्रॉम सच पर्सन. क्लियर? So here the contract costing involved that different contracts which is taken and under the one head company, and it is the accounting of the contract costing is different from the one contract to another. Joint cost, that is involved in simultaneously product के साथ जो cost second product involved होता है. In the for example in the processes of the sugar, from the sugar cane juice, so we know that the jaggery, गुड़, दैट इन कमिंग विद द शुगर कैन, तो शुगर कैन का जब प्रोसेस होता है, फिर जब हम लोग रिफाइनिंग करते हैं शुगर फॉर्म में, तो वी आर गेटिंग सम अनदर प्रोडक्ट, सो दिस इज कॉल्ड द जॉइंट कॉस्ट। जो दूसरा प्रोडक्ट साइमल्टेनियसली प्रोड्यूस होता है तो उसका भी क्या होता है, सेलेबल वैल्यू होता है। नाउ द ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट, ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट इज इन्वॉल्व विद दैट द सर्विसिंग कॉस्ट दैट इज रिलेटेड विद द ट्रांसपोर्टेशन cost. Now the next one is management decision making, means that the classification on the basis of management decision making. In that, first is the marginal cost. It is that part of aggregate cost which change due to the change in output of by 1 unit. So it is the total variable cost. As we know that a product cost is involved both the cost, fixed cost and variable cost. So marginal cost is related with what, that is the variable cost. Next is the opportunity cost. Now the opportunity cost, it is the prospective change in the cost following by what, adoption of alternative machine or the process, raw material or framing the new policy, that the management can the opportunity कि कोई opportunity मिलता है। अगर new machinery हम लोग alternative machinery लेके आते हैं तो उसमें हमारा production बढ़ जाता है, little expenses bear करने के लिए, या process का हम लोग method change करते हैं, raw material का quality change करते हैं, so we can get the opportunity of any new result. So this is relevant related as opportunity cost. Now the next one is the imputed cost. Now this imputed cost is known as that hypothetically cost which is not involve the cash payment. So it is what cost that based on the decision making. For example, you have 1 lakh rupees in your hand. Now it's there are the so many ways to invest such money, whether you are going to invest in bank में आप fixed deposit करके बैंक में deposit करके 1 lakh rupees रख सकते हो, या आप लोग म्यूचुअल फंड या शेयर्स में इन्वेस्टमेंट कर सकते हो, either you invested in the your business. So the interest on owner's capital or the rent on own property are the main example of the imputed cost. Means अगर comparison करते हैं कि अगर ये 1 लाख रुपीस हम लोग बिजनेस में लेके आए तो हमें उसका रिटर्न कितना मिलने वाला है, या अगर हम लोगों ने एफडी बना के रखा तो उसका रिटर्न कितना मिलने वाला है. That next is the sunk cost. Sunk cost is what, that it is historical cost which is incurred that in the past and it's not relevant to the decision required to be made by the management at present. As for example, freight charges that paid on the freight charges paid on the machinery. Now next is the relevant cost. That cost related with the future which differ between alternative. Relevant cost may also be termed as the cost which influenced and changed by the decision. Clear? On the other hand, that irrelevant costs are not useful for taking any decision. Now the differential cost, it is involved what, that the difference between the alternative, that increase and decrease in that the alternative. Now here are the example. If for example कि factory से market तक मेरे को goods सेंड करने के लिए आई नीड टू बी हायर दैट द ऑटो रिक्शा, ट्रांसपोर्टेड ऑटो रिक्शा और ट्रक, एंड आई हैव टू फ्रीक्वेंटली मेरे को गुड्स सेंड करने होते हैं मार्केट में. सो इट इज़ बेनिफिशियल फॉर द कंपनी टू परचेज देयर ओन ट्रांसपोर्टेशन. फॉर दैट दे ओनली इन्वेस्टमेंट, एक फर्स्ट आपको पूरा बल्क इन्वेस्टमेंट हो जाएगा, बट गेटिंग द बेनिफिट इन द लॉन्ग लाइफ में उसका बेनिफिट मिलेगा. इवन द डेप्रिसिएटेड वैल्यू, इवन पेट्रोल एक्सपेंसेस, ड्राइवर एक्सपेंसेस आर ऑल बेनिफिटेड एज वी आर कैन claim in the profit and loss account as an expenses. So this is what a differential cost, whether आप higher charge pay करो for the acquiring that transportation, या आप अपना own transport that vehicle purchase करो. Avoidable, unavoidable cost. The cost which is avoidable, कि हम लोग जो cost को control कर सकते हैं, that is called the avoidable. Now being first, जब मार्केट में प्रोडक्ट लेके आते हैं तो एडवर्टाइजमेंट बहुत हम लोगों को एक्सपेंसेस पे करना पड़ता है, एडवर्टाइजमेंट एक्सपेंसेस। बट वंस द मार्केट में प्रोडक्ट आ गया, उसका डिमांड इंक्रीज होता है तो दैट स्लोली दैट एडवर्टाइजमेंट कम डाउन, वो एक्सपेंसेस बिल्कुल कम होते जाते। तो हम लोग वो अवॉइड कर सकते हैं कि वंस हमारा प्रोडक्ट आ गया तो हम लोग देयर आर द स्टॉप ऑन पेइंग द एडवर्टाइजमेंट एक्सपेंसेस। अनअवॉइडेबल मीन्स दैट इज अ टैक्सेस, ऑक्ट्राइज, वी हैव टू पे दैट रॉयल्टी फॉर एक्वायरिंग द रॉ मटेरियल। यहाँ गवर्नमेंट को हम लोगों को टैक्सेस पे करना पड़ता है ऑन द परचेस ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल, देन दैट सच कॉस्टेस आर अनअवॉइडेबल कॉस्टेस. So here are these are the basic classification of the costes, that based on the nature of expenses, relation to cost center, function, behavior, time and production process, and the last one is the management decision making. So in this lecture, up to this only, we will continue with our next lecture.